Hello. So this question comes in from Shreyans, who has quoted a source eternal post that goes like, a person who is willing to stand alone for their truth can stand against any atrocity. And what he asks is this: their truth. So, is there anything like a personal truth? Or is it like a filter to test out if you are really standing for truth? That is, if you are able to stand alone, then it is for the truth, else not. So, this question of yours, I think there is more of a requirement to understand the post in itself. So, let's begin. So, going back to the post again, what was said or what has been quoted is that a person who is willing to stand alone for their truth can stand against any atrocity. Where does this come from? What is the context or background understanding of the quote being said over here? When one looks at it through a lens, we understand that this is the first part of the quote. It goes towards mentioning someone who is willing to stand alone for their truth. Basically, we all have notions of our truth, coming for a diverse experience of life or through our conditionings or whatever that has been fed into us. We know that we are coming from influences of our genes, our parents, society. So, how can we really know from our nascent stage where we are at what the definition or the real meaning of truth is? From where we are, we can only see through a very concave view what truth looks like to us. So, what the first part of the quote it tries to say or it tries to elaborate on is that someone, even though their vision might be concave or convex or very myopic, that is, you are able to see only something which is close to you, not in the long run. Even if there is someone who is able to see that much and they are able to walk on that path, like in the spiritual path, it is said that the spiritual path is so vast which could be spanning thousands and millions of kilometers. Yet you can only, with the lantern in your hand, you can only see the very next step, and after that it's a darkness or there is a eternal fog that lies in front of you. So what the first part of the quote is trying to say that even if you are able to see the first step or a limited path, a person who is able to or is willing to or is able to stake their entire life on walking that very first step, it means that someone of that nature has a certain resolve to do things, to go into a certain direction with conviction. So that is the person that we are talking about in the first part of the quote. And for someone who is asking for themselves is whether do we have an absolute truth or no. First you need to see that what is clear to you. There are certain things that are clear to you. Have you worked on it? And if you have, then that's a great news, because having walked on the very first step would lead you to the next step. And a person walking on this path never asks for something in the very distant future. Action is very immediate, and someone who keeps thinking about the future will miss the present. So it is good if someone is able to be so sensitive to it to an extent that they are able to walk on the very first step. As we have discussed, that it requires a lot of resolve in itself. So this sort of a person, because the vigor, the courage, the practice, the great amount of work it requires on oneself, on the world, it requires you to create or achieve a good level of excellence in the realms that you are working or you want to create a change in. Because change in oneself and the world, it goes together. There is no independence in that you see that things are going bad in general in your surroundings, but you still feel that things are not going good with you. Basically, there is a change in you. You will see that progress has been taken out to other dimensions of life. If you are able to do one certain thing quite well, it is bound to come to other fields of your work. If there is fragrance somewhere, it is bound to spread. So it is about that excellence, that work that you have factored in into yourself. So if there is someone who is a fighter, who has been able to achieve that level of work, then they become capable of identifying that the atrocities that stand in front of them, and they are able to work upon them. That was the second part of the quote, that a person who is willing to stand alone for their truth can stand against any atrocity. So someone who has gone through the process also automatically achieves a level of compassion within themselves, and this compassion does not allow them to, if someone is struggling in their own life and they are able to see the work that is required to overcome that, of course they will not allow any other person to undergo those atrocities which are meaningless. The atrocities that are imposed, that are limitations, that are quite easily seen that they are limiting life. So a person of that caliber is easily able to see those atrocities and able to stand for them. So that's why you see that people who are dedicated to a certain cause, they automatically become compassionate towards other causes as well. For example, if someone is a part of a movement that is against atrocities on animals, or they are towards welfare of children or welfare of economically underprivileged people, they are automatically to a great extent connected to other causes as well. Even if they are not able to contribute in terms of their efforts, they try to contribute in terms of money. So this is just going or hinting towards a larger phenomenon of the compassion not being limited. It sort of goes into different fields. So that's what this was about. And going back to what you had asked about personal truth. Is there a personal truth? So the Vedas or the Shastras, they talk about two types of dharmas. One is dharma, that is the ultimate truth, and the other is swadharma, which you can loosely call as personal truth. I wouldn't say that, but you can still call it that. So the thing about dharma is that you know that it is called as ultimate, although you do not know about its existence, but it is something that has been called as the ultimate. But us being limited to our body, to our desires, to the part and parcels of our life that we can't at the current moment live without, we are subjected to a thing called swadharma. And swadharma will be varying for everyone as to what is it in your life that is stopping you, restricting you, and what you have to work on, or something that you see as something that is high for you in your life can be something which can be termed as swadharma. And all this being said, nothing is out of question. You need to keep questioning it so that you can refine your perceptions. In the latter part of your question, you have asked whether is it a test that we can undertake on ourselves, that if we are able to stand alone, then it is the truth or it is our truth. Otherwise, it's mistaken sense of truth that we have taken up. So it's a good point, but it's not necessarily true. You have to keep questioning, you have to keep filtering out, because there are many concepts that we latch onto, that this is my truth, this is the truth, or anything and everything that we out of convenience take upon ourselves to be the truth, and many a times it's a matter of a bad argument that we make in order to go towards our own desires instead of going towards that is in general good. So it can be a parameter to say that if we are able to stand alone then it is the truth, but it's not necessarily true. But it is true that you might have to stand alone for your truth. That is for sure, that it will take you through tough phases or bad times, but you can't make a general statement saying that just because I am going through a bad time or I am suffering, that means I am going behind my truth. So that is like we are trying to justify our own suffering, and we need to be wary of this. So you always have to be cautious, because as it is said that the path of life or the walk of spirituality is like something you are doing a tightrope walk, or you are walking on the edge of the sword, and it's a great balancing act. So it's not without questioning that you can go to it or go through it. So it's good that you have been questioning. If there is any question further from anyone, you can certainly send it or put it in the comments. Thanks.